Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, please hit that thumbs up button and like and subscribe to the channel. So today we're going to be continuing with our Pioneer SX-838 restoration. And so as we're waiting for some of the components we ordered for the power supply section, we're going to go ahead and address some of the cosmetic concerns we have with this case. And so taking a look at this case, you can easily see that the side of this is busted off. And so we've got to do something about that. So we can do a couple things, guys. We can try to salvage this case, or we can build a new case. And I think we can salvage this case with just a little bit of time and some TLC. So we're going to go ahead and do that. If that's something you want to watch, stay tuned and let's get started. So before we get started today, guys, let's make sure that we have all the tools and supplies necessary. And so we'll need some wood glue. Any wood glue would do. I'm using Type Bond number 2. Maybe some paper towels to clean up any glue spillage. You don't need this, but I'm going to use it today. It's a brad nailer, and I'm using 1 1/4" brads. You'll also need a wood clamp, and you want to make sure your clamp is big enough to clamp your box. In this case, I'm using 36-inch clamps. Additionally, you'll need the vinyl of your choosing once the glue is dried, a roller or some way to make sure that the vinyl is secured, and then the secret weapon is the X-Acto knife, or in my case, I'm using a scalpel. So if you've got all those things gathered together, guys, we're ready to get started. So why don't you come on in a little bit closer and let's get this box glued up. All right, guys, so we got our case laid out in this format here. And so anywhere you see where there's been exposed wood, like in this joint, I want to make sure I put glue there. And really there's not such thing as too much glue. So don't be stingy on your glue if you're gluing something up. We can always clean up the glue squeeze out afterwards. You want to make sure you get a good firm bond. So more glue the better. And so all I'm going to do is take my glue and I'm going to go ahead and squirt it into this channel on both sides of the wood. Make sure I get a good coverage. So this is plywood. So some of this is probably going to go into the actual wood itself. So don't be afraid to put a little extra glue on there. And then once we get the glue and we get it together, we're going to put a couple brads in here to give it a little bit of added stability and strength as well. So that's this side. I'll leave that alone, and let's go ahead and put some glue on this side as well. All right. So I'm going to go ahead, and all I'm going to do, guys, is just flip this up and kind of press it into place and line it up. Once I'm happy with where it's lined up at, I'm going to take my first clamp and I'm just going to come around this back side, leaving the clamp on the table. And I'm just going to put a little bit of pressure on it just to hold it. I don't want to do too much because then it could knock the front off. So then I'm going to come with my second clamp and do the exact same thing on the front side. Once I'm happy with that, guys, really I could leave it just like this and let it dry, but I'm going to go ahead and flip it up, and then that way we can get some brad nails in it. And so already this is looking good, but I want to go ahead and give it a little bit of extra stability. So again, I'm just kind of lining it up, loosening up my clamps and lining it up some more. Another thing guys can do is get another clamp, and instead of clamping it this way, you can clamp it up and down. And I think I'm going to go do that. So just hang on, guys, and let me get another wood clamp. So I wasn't happy with how that was looking, so I went ahead and got me another couple wood clamps, guys. And now we're going to clamp it from bottom to the top as well. And that's just really making sure I'm getting a really good bond here. The glue's got time, so you don't have to be in a rush with it. You've got time to get it together. And we're just trying to focus on getting as good a bond as we can. And so when you see that squeeze out, that means you're doing something right. So while that's there, I'm going to go ahead and throw a brad in it. And when we put the new vinyl on it, you won't be able to see these brads, so I'm not worried about it. Leaving a mark. That looks good. And this is just going to reinforce the glue joint. And so guys, we've got this in pretty good shape right now. We just need to let this dry, and we'll come back here and probably tomorrow. And once it's dry, we'll continue with the vinyl wrap. All right, guys, so it's the next day. This has had all night to glue up. So let's go ahead and take these clamps off and see how we did. All right. So it looks good, guys. So I think we're going to be in good shape. So all that's left to do now, guys, is to clean this off with a degreaser or some type of detergent cleaner. And then we're ready to go ahead and apply vinyl. I did do some brad nails, and on some of those it left a little divot. So I'm going to go ahead and get some of that super glue and fill those holes in. And then there's one brad nail that's sticking out a little bit proud, so I'm going to tap that in. And then other than that, guys, this thing's going to be ready for vinyl. So let's go ahead and get started on that. All right, guys, now that we got this wiped down, we're ready to put vinyl on. But if you wanted to, this would be a great time to go ahead and paint this. And so all you would have to do is take this off with some of the blue painter's tape, and you could go ahead and get it ready for paint. I don't think I'm going to do that because this one's in pretty good shape. So I'm going to leave it alone. But if you wanted to, guys, now would be the time to do that before you put the vinyl on. So let me go ahead and cut up the vinyl, guys, and we'll be right back. All right, guys, so we're ready to put on the vinyl. So the case is prepped. We've basically glued the side to it. We've cleaned that up. We've cleaned the case to get any residue off to make sure that we're going to have a good bond with our vinyl. And so we're ready to put this on. Now this is a little bit trickier than the last case we did because previous case we did the sides and then we did the top separate. This is going to be one continual piece of vinyl. So it's going to be a little bit trickier. It's usually helpful if you have a second pair of hands, but I'm going to be doing it today with just myself. So it is doable if you do it by yourself. You just want to be extra careful. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to start on one of the sides and pull, get the vinyl to lay flat. But when we come to this edge, before we round the edge, we're going to want to put a crease on there really good and make sure we get our roller and roll it really well. And then we'll continue. As soon as we get over the edge, same thing. We're going to crease it right here. And that's just to make sure it doesn't bubble up afterwards. And then we'll continue and repeat the same process on the next side. So it's very critical, guys, that once you get to this lip on this side, in this orientation, that before you make that, you go ahead and put a nice little crease right there because, like I said, you don't want it bubbling up. And so I'm going to try to illustrate it on this first edge, and then I'll speed up the video, and you guys can watch me do the rest. So again, if you have a second pair of hands that can hold this while you do that, great. If not, you'll just have to try to do it on your own. I can tell you from experience, the very first time I did this, I needed to do it twice. So don't be afraid to mess up and try again. So we cut this bigger than the case itself, so I'm going to leave a little overhang here just to give myself. But I would try to center this vinyl here on the case. And that way you have a lot of overhang, and it just gives you a little bit of leeway in case the vinyl starts tracking a different direction that you don't have to try to pull it off and start again. So make sure I have my roller. And this is that walnut vinyl that I like to use, and so I can leave a link in the description below. Again, we're just going to kind of start the peel, get us some started. Like so, and we'll go ahead and apply. Now, like I said, I'm going to try to center this on the case itself and make it as straight as possible so that way I'm not too far off target. Once I've got a little bit of overhang, I'm just going to gently do this first side here like that. Now from there, this process is going to be similar to the other, where I just kind of go back and forth as I pull that white piece of paper out. And the only difference is once I get to that corner right there, I'm going to make sure that I get a really good bond right there, because I don't want this bubbling up later and causing an issue down the road for the future owner. Once we do that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and continue this curve. But I'm going to pull this taut. See how I've got it nice and tight? And then I'm going to just take my hand and I'm going to make that edge. And do a really good job here, because you do not want this bubbling up later. All right. So now that we've done that, guys, we can continue on as if we're vinyl wrapping. Be careful when you go over the grate that you're not applying too much pressure right there, because if you do, that'll basically leave a bubble or mark in the vinyl. So you just want to gently pull it until we get to that next curve. And there it is. So now that we're on this side, I'm going to go ahead and make sure I get a good bond right there. Use my roller. Again, I'm avoiding this section here where the grate is. And we'll come back at the finishing steps to make sure we've got a good bond. Now I'm just going to flip it up. And as I pull this out, guys, just going to pull it out just a little bit. Pull it tight. And make that corner. And the better you do this, guys, the less likely it's going to cause problems and bubble up later on. Either way, it's going to look 1,000 times better than what it did, but we want it to be as close to perfect as possible. And that's it. We've got nice tight corners. Now all that's left for me to do is trim up all the sides and edges and roll this out. So I'll go ahead and do that, guys, and then you guys can watch the process. If you haven't seen me do this before, please refer back to my how to put on a new vinyl on an old case video, and that'll help you guys through the process. All right, guys, so we just got done trimming up the vinyl on this case, and this thing is looking good. I'll go ahead and throw some pictures up here on the screen so you guys can see how good it looks. The key to this, guys, is having some patience and focusing on these corners and making sure you get a good seam on those corners so it doesn't bubble up. And then just rolling out the whole case. So I hope you guys like this content. We're going to continue with our Pioneer SX-838 restore as soon as we get the rest of the components in. So please like and subscribe to the video. That way you guys can get notified when future content comes out. Again, thanks for tuning in today, guys, and we'll see you on the next video.